بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Welcome everyone to our this session of the Tahara class. Inshallah ta'ala, we are going to be uh, just covering a very small or short section, um, and then we will be done with the Tahara section of our class. If then people wish to continue with other subjects, we can continue. We can have the discussion and continue from there, inshallah. We can either cover Aqidah part, where we cover the main Islamic principles of faith, or we can cover Salah and how to perform prayers and kind of go into details like we have done with wudu. The part I wanted to discuss today is called wudu al-ma'dhur. Ma'dhur is the person who has an excuse, and the excuse kind of continues for a long period of time, and it prevents them it prevents them from having their wudu for an extended amount or period of time. So, for instance, if someone has an excuse or an illness for whatever reason that causes them to have to go to the bathroom constantly, or they pass gas constantly, or, which is more common, bleeding. For instance, if you have nosebleeds or ears bleeds or whatever kind of bleedings that non-stop, as long as they go in the time of prayers, cover the time of prayers from the time it starts until the time it ends. So say the time for dhuhr started and you have an excuse, you are constantly like bleeding from your nose, and that continues with you all the way until the time for dhuhr ends and the time for asr begins. That's an excused person, and they have more flexibility and leniency with their wudu as opposed to a regular person with no excuse like that. So what should they do? Well, basically what they should do is that they should make wudu at the beginning of the prayer time. So say dhuhr is at 1:15, example, just it's not 1:15 right now, I think, but say it's at 1:15. Then what the person with an excuse should do, should make their wudu at the beginning of the prayer time and just pray, and just pray. You can pray dhuhr, you can pray the nafil or the extra prayers of dhuhr until the time for dhuhr ends. That's one option. Some people say actually what you need to do is to wait all the way until the end of time and leave only enough time to be able to make wudu and pray that specific prayers. So Salat al-Isha, say Salat al-Isha takes 10 minutes to pray and the wudu takes 5 minutes to pray. So you wait till the very end of Salat al-Isha, right before Salat al-Fajr or dawn prayers, and you leave 15 minutes. If your excuse does not stop and you continue to bleed, or you continue to pass gas, or you continue to go to the bathroom, or you continue to throw up or something of that sort, I take that back. Throw up is not, as we said last time. If you continue to throw up, we said last time, remember the difference between like a big amount of throw up and just a little bit of throw up. So anyway, you leave 15 minutes, and then if your excuse does not stop, if you can't control it, if you don't have a cure for it, then make wudu and pray even if you still bleed, even if you still, continue, for instance, to pass gas. Why? Because you get a special pass, and you get a special kind of leniency and flexibility as opposed to someone who isn't really excused. Okay? Now there are points to note here. Take some notes. If you make wudu while in this state, your wudu isn't broken. So I'm bleeding from my nose, okay? And I make wudu and then my nose continues to bleed, it's okay to go and pray. There is no harm in doing so. There is absolutely no harm in doing so. And even in addition to that, there is no harm if the blood spills on your clothes. So if you're bleeding and it comes on your clothes, there is no there's no harm in that. If your excuse has suspended, so I'm bleeding, but then my excuse stopped, my wudu, and then I make wudu, then it returns again, then my wudu is broken. Meaning, I am bleeding from my nose, time for dhuhr comes, but then I wait for 5, 10, or 30 minutes, and my bleeding stops. So I'm now free from the excuse. I have no problem for like 5, 10, 30, 40 minutes. I make wudu in a state of purity, and I have no excuses, I have no bleeding or nothing. Then my bleeding returns again. In that case, my wudu will be broken. So the only case that you can make wudu while having like a condition or a problem that breaks your wudu, and still be okay and still go and do your prayers, is that it has this consistency and continuity of the excuse. That's the key word, continuity. Now, if your wudu was due to a certain excuse, for say because you have a problem in your stomach and that causes you to pass gas, and you made wudu, and you are excused now to pray with that wudu even if you continue to pass gas. What happens if you bleed? That's a different thing. That's a different issue than the one you have. In that case, your wudu is broken due to that kind of different problem that now you are suffering or that you're facing, and you have to remake your wudu. So the only idea here is that if you have a certain excuse that allows you to make wudu and then pray without having to remake your wudu, that it has to be the same excuse consistently. I hope that makes sense. I know that this can be a little confusing, but it's actually very important. I received questions from many people who say, I have continuous bleeding. What do I do? So that's this point for you. You might not, alhamdulillah, suffer from it, but just so that you know, it happens, and there are people out there who will actually have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will, they will face this difficulty of being continuously in a state of excuse. That's why it's important to know these rules. Okay, another reason that breaks your wudu, if you are an excused person, is that the time for prayer ends. So, say Salatul Dhuhr begin at 1:15, Salatul Asr begin at 5 o'clock or something. You make your wudu at 1:15, you pray as you wish, and your excuse continues to happen throughout the time. Then the time for Dhuhr ends, then you have to remake your wudu again, and you repeat. You keep praying between Asr and Maghrib, and then when Maghrib time comes, you make another wudu and you pray from Maghrib to Isha, so on and so forth. Does this make sense, inshallah? I hope it does. I hope it does, inshallah. Now, we also have another point we want to cover today, which is wiping over the socks or the khuf. Wiping over the socks or the khuf. Before I go into wiping over the socks or the khuf, you have to understand that these two parts are kind of left to the end of the class because both of them has to do with leniency of rules, has to do with relaxation of rules. And, our religion, alhamdulillah, has room for flexibility. It has room for flexibility, meaning, yes, we have rules that we must follow, but when times are difficult, when you have an excuse, then these rules can be easily kind of lenient and flexible and suspended. And also, I want to say before I get into wiping over the socks or the khuf, is that whatever you can do to make your excuse kind of, has a less impact on you is recommended. So if you are bleeding and you can put like some cotton balls or something in your nose that will stop the bleeding or at least lessening it a little bit, you are recommended to do so. If your excuse is less when you're sitting, you are encouraged to sit down while you are praying. So whatever you can do to make yourself feel better and not as suffering, I guess is the word I'm looking for, is you are recommended to do that. As I said again, you can like lean forward a little bit, you can sit down, even laying down and praying while you are in that state is much better than leaving your prayers altogether or delaying it. Now let's move to wiping over the socks. The reason wiping over the socks is important is that we have a large number of Sahaba, may Allah be pleased with all of them, who narrated that. A large number that is 80 or more, which made it the hadith or the hadith known as mutawatir hadith. Mutawatir hadith means a large number of Sahaba narrates to us that the Prophet did this or that thing. And therefore, anyone actually denies the validity of wiping over the khuf, they are denying one of these principles of our faith. What are the conditions that allows you to be able to wipe over the khuf? First of all, the khuf is not like the socks. Khuf is different. Khuf is made out of leather. It's thicker than socks, actually more durable to the point that you can walk in it, and you will see these conditions. So the khuf is different from socks, although they agree on many of these rules and many of these points. That's why I put them together. Number one, it must be worn in a state of spiritual tahara. So, if you are wearing your khuf or your socks and you don't have wudu on, you cannot actually wipe over your socks or your khuf. If you don't have your wudu on and you wear your socks, you are not allowed to wipe over them. You must put them on in a state of wudu in order for you to be able to wipe. So I wake up in the morning to pray Salat al-Fajr. I make my wudu, and after I make my wudu, I dry, and then after I dry, I put my socks on or my khuf. I can wipe throughout the day and even a day and a half. We will see that in a second. I can do this. But say I wake up in the morning, before I make my wudu, I put my socks on, and now I start making my wudu in order for me to pray Salat al-Fajr. Am I allowed to wipe over them? No, I am not. Why? Because I put my socks on while I'm in a state of impurity, or I did not have my tahara or my wudu on. Second condition, they must cover the ankle. So all the people now like to wear, especially during the summer, these short socks that don't reach up to the ankle. They are short, the no-show socks. They're called no-show socks. Can I wipe over no-show socks? You cannot, because they do not cover your ankle. This is one of the conditions. They has to cover your ankle, or otherwise they are not meeting the conditions of the sunnah of our Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Again, whether that's socks or khuf, and again the khuf is made out of leather, socks is what you wear in your daily life. So it has to cover the ankle. So if you are wearing no-show socks, you are not actually allowed to wipe over them. Second, you must be able to walk in them for approximately an hour and a half. An hour and a half, meaning they have to be durable, not light. You know, there are these light socks, especially for women or girls. They have very light kind of socks because, I don't know why. But anyway, they have very light socks. These are not socks that you can wipe over because they are not durable. You can walk in them for an hour and a half. And water goes through them, which another condition we'll see in a second. So the socks or the khuf you are wiping over must be durable enough to be able to walk in them for an hour and a half. And another condition is to be void of any big cuts. So even if you are wearing durable, thick socks, whether they are made out of leather or made out of wool or very, very thick cotton or something, but they have a cut that shows your feet, that shows your toes, for example, you are not allowed to actually wipe over them. Then they have to prevent water from soaking through, meaning they should not be light socks. Again, this relates to the durability of the socks or the khuf. They should be able to prevent water from soaking through if you wipe over them. Wiping is over, not under the khuf. Sayyiduna Ali radiyallahu anh said, if our religion is to be taken by, if we determine, according to our own reasoning, matters of ritual, then he said, Well, we should be wiping under, like the part that you walk on, and not over. But he said matters of ritual, such as for prayers or wudu or fasting, is not up for reason. It's up for following the rules. Reason has to do with faith, meaning in order for you to believe in Allah, you have to have reason. You have to reason the existence of Allah. You have to have proofs for the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You cannot force someone to become a Muslim. You cannot force someone to become faithful. But when it comes to matters of rituals, these are mostly things that has to do with following the rules and doing them as we have been commanded. And there's a great blessings in doing so. Sometimes we do understand why. Sometimes we don't understand why when it comes to rituals. And also when it comes to rules, sometimes we understand why and sometimes we don't. With alcohol, we know why we don't drink alcohol. But with pork, we don't know why we drink pork. We eat pork. It's because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that. Okay. Now, so the condition or the wiping here has to happen over. So the top of your feet, not the bottom of your feet. And one way of doing that is that you just wet your hands a little bit, not too much, a little bit, and you go through with both hands in a motion that goes from the toes all the way up to the ankles. One time. This is the sunnah of the Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, and repeating more than one time is khilafu sunnah, or otherwise it goes against the sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. طيب, what happens if you do repeat or if you do like the sides of your socks or you start from the ankle and go down to the toes? It's okay, it's fine. As we said earlier, religion is flexible, but it will be against the sunnah. You will not be doing it exactly like the Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam did. Again, you can wipe for 1.5 days if you are not traveling. So, if you are staying home and you're just feeling cold, you're feeling lazy, you're feeling tired, you're feeling sick, you don't feel like, bringing your feet up to the sink and washing your feet every single time, you have to make wudu, then wake up in the morning, make your wudu when you are praying subh or fajr, put your socks on, and you can keep wiping over for 1.5 days. Again, they must be durable, they must be covering the ankle and so on and so forth. But you can do that for 1.5 days. Start from Salat al-Fajr, for example, and go all the way to maybe Salat al-Dhuhr all the way to Salat al-Dhuhr of the next day or the following day. What if I'm traveling? Because in Islam, traveling constitutes an excuse for people to listen the prayers, break their fast, and do things in a much easier way. Then, if you are traveling, you can wipe for 3 days and 3 nights. 3 days and 3 nights. Of course, you really might want to take off your socks and wash your feet just for hygiene reasons. But because at the time of the Prophet and after that, and even in our times, if you are traveling and you get in an aeroplane, especially if you are doing an international flight, you get in an aeroplane, another airplane, and then your airplane is delayed, and then you have to do transit somewhere. So in that case, you are allowed an excuse to wipe for 3 days and 3 nights. And as I said, if you are wiping over your socks, they must be thick. Thick wool, thick cotton, thick material that does not really, the water does not soak through them. What happens that make wiping over our socks nullified or forces us to take them off and wash them? Number one, if you do anything that breaks your wudu, in that case, you have to remake your wudu again, and wipe over your socks one more time. So that's the first thing. If anything breaks your wudu, then you have to remake your wudu, obviously, and wipe over the socks. If the allowed period ends, so you are traveling, you have wiped for 3 days and 3 nights already, in that case, you have to take off your socks and wash your feet. Excuse me, I have hiccups. I really apologize. So, if the allowed period is 1.5 days for someone who's staying, not traveling, in that case, once the period is over, take off your socks and wash your feet. You will so anything that breaks the wudu, if the allowed period ends. What happens if you accidentally take them off, or you're playing or running, or something happens and you slip off, and your socks for like get off, you are taken off. You like your feet is out of the socks or the khuf. In that case, you also that nullifies wiping over the socks. You have to take them both off, wash your feet, or if your wudu is broken, you have to make your wudu again, inshallah. What happens if they rip open? I wash my feet, I make wudu and everything, and then I put my socks on. They are durable and nice, but something happens and they break. Something happened and they break. In that case, again, you do the same thing I just mentioned. Take them off, wash your feet. But if you broke your wudu, then you have to repeat your wudu again. If wiping period is over, but wudu does not break, or is not broken, then all you need to do in that case, all you need to do in that case is to actually just take them off and wash your feet. You wash your feet. You are not required to, you are not required to remake your wudu again. Does this make sense, everyone? Does this make sense? Okay. Now that we are done with this part, I want to refresh a little bit for 5 minutes or so your knowledge regarding tayammum. Tayammum is very important, and it's gonna become even more important nowadays, because once we return back to our mosques, what might happen is that we might actually ask people to come to the mosque with their wudu on, and if they happen to break their wudu, then in that case we might have to ask them to do tayammum. So you really need to know the rules about tayammum, and that will be very beneficial for you in these coming days, if not even months, because if things continue to be the way they are, again, you have to come to the masjid with your wudu on. But if you don't have your wudu on, you will be asked to make tayammum. And also not just when you come to the mosque, anywhere you are out. I just read an article today where the doctors are saying, as the countries open up and people start to go back to the public, it might be a good idea to just go to the bathroom at home, so that you don't have to go to the bathroom publicly. And that works for us as Muslims. You might want to just make your wudu at home before you leave, so when the time for prayers come, you don't need to make wudu outside of the house. And therefore, what happens is that you just, if you have to, then you can make tayammum, and in that case it's allowed and there is no problem. So let's just really refresh really quickly. I know I covered tayammum, if I'm not mistaken, but I just really quickly, I want to refresh your memory about the rules for tayammum. We've said that tayammum is mentioned in the Quran in the same ayah in which Allah says that we have to make wudu prior to engaging in prayers. Good question. What is tayammum? Tayammum, I was just explaining what it was as that question came. But tayammum is mentioned in the same ayah in the Quran in which Allah requires from us or commands us to make wudu before ablution or washing or spiritual washing before we pray. And so tayammum now becomes the substitute in the case of the absence of water. The tayammum means the substitute for wudu in the case of absence of water. We can translate it into dry ablution, meaning you actually wash, but you don't need water. You wash, but you don't need water. Again, I really apologize for the hiccups. I can't drink water, so I'll have to just wait. So again, it's a substitute for wudu, and it's something that is you do without water, and it kind of puts you in a state of spiritual purity and allows you to perform wudu and do the things that you would usually do if you have tahara or if you are in a state of spiritual purity. The actual meaning of tayammum, though, like the linguistic, and remember I said always you need to learn the linguistic part and the shar'i or the religious meaning. The linguistic meaning is that tayammum means like a target. So the meaning here was that you need to find something, you need to look for something that will allow you to, that you can use to purify yourself with. So there's no water. So what do? You start looking for something that you can use to purify yourself with. Usually it's clean and pure rock or sand or just something, an element from nature that does not really burn with fire. Meaning you cannot really use like wood or a wood stump or a wood branch of wood or like a tree to make your dry ablution. It has to be something that can't be burned with fire. So like a rock is fine. A brick, like a building block or brick works fine. Sand works great, and anything that cannot be burned by fire. And then so what are some of the conditions then that would allow this tayammum to take effect and stand as substitute for your wudu? Number one, the absence of water. That's the number one and the most important part, is the absence of water, because Allah says in Surah Al-Ma'idah, فَلَمْ تَجِدُوا مَاءً فَتَيَمَّمُوا. If you don't find water, then seek to perform tayammum. That's the number one and most important condition. But here you have to understand, and that will allow you to be a smart Muslim, inshallah, that the absence of water doesn't mean only the actual absence of water, meaning I open the tap and there's no water, I don't have any water saved, I don't have any source of water. No, it also means the moral meaning of the absence of water. Just like what we said regarding coming to the masjid, we are in the middle of pandemic and the people in the masjid telling you, I'm sorry, but you cannot use the bathroom, or you don't want to use the public bathroom because you are afraid for your life to get a virus or something if you use the tap water or the tap and hold door handles and like bathroom stools and things like this. So that is also like a moral absence for water. Another way of thinking about the absence of water is fear. So you are very cold. It's like a very cold night, and we are in Iowa, so the night can be very cold. In like when we had the polar vortex last year, or the year before, and if you use water, there is no warm water, so you didn't pay your bill, and so you have only cold water coming. You don't have heater working, and if you use water, it will cause you great harm. In that case, water is considered morally absent. Another case is afraid for your life if you go and seek water. So there's no water, but there's a water well like 5-10 minutes away, and it's the middle of the night. And if you go get that water, you might be in danger of like animals or getting lost, or maybe someone will attack you or rob you. In that case, also water means it is absent. Another case, which you might not think about right now because you are blessed with running water at your homes, but sometimes water exists but you can't afford it. So meaning there is water in the market and you can go and pay the bill and get water back into your home, but guess what? You don't have enough money to pay the bill. There are people like this among us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give them and enable them to pay their bills, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never put anyone in a place where they can't afford their basic necessities. These people also are considered to be people who do not have access to water, and they can actually make tayammum or dry ablution or substitute for their wudu. Okay. Number two, another condition for being able to perform the ablution successfully is that you have to have a niyyah, or the intention. niyyah or the intention. And your intention should be either that you want to be able to pray or you want to clean yourself so that you can be in a state of tahara, you can read Quran, you can do tawaf around the Kaaba, and so on and so forth. So, number one is the absence of water. Number two, for the conditions of a successful tayammum, is that you have an intention to purify and cleanse yourself. And as we said before, your intention is in your heart. So you don't need to say, like, I intend to make a dry ablution, I intend to make tayammum, or I intend to pray. No, you just need in your heart, know that you are. So you come to the masjid and you made your wudu at home, but unfortunately, maybe you ate beans for lunch or something, and so you break your fast while you break your wudu on your way to the masjid, and now you have to make wudu. Then just make your intention in your heart that you are coming to the masjid to pray, and so you can start doing your ablution, and inshallah it will be okay and successful. Okay. The substance you are about to use, the substance that you will that you are about to use has to be clean and has to be pure. So you can't really use anything that's not pure or not clean. So say you have a rock or you have sand or you have any other substance, but they are not really clean. Maybe they have some sort of impurity on them or that mixed with them. In that case, you are actually not allowed to use anything that is impure. Why? Because Allah says, فَتَيَمَّمُوا صَعِيدًا طَيِّبًا. Find a clean or pure element, a natural element, and use it to purify yourself and make that make tayammum. Okay, does this make sense so far, inshallah? So all of these things are the conditions for a good tayammum. Number 4, one of the conditions is that you have to really make sure when you do it, and I will tell you how in a second, you have to make sure that you cover all the parts that are necessary, which is basically both arms, hands and arms, and your face as well. So this is number 1, including if you are wearing like some sort of like a ring or something, that you move it around the same way we've said with wudu. You have to move your ring around so that the water gets underneath it. Same thing if you are wearing jewelry. A lot of people now wear like smart watches which covers their wrists. They have to move that so that they are able to they are able to reach all the parts that needs to be reached and need to be wiped. So if you come to the masjid, you're wearing your smart watch or you're wearing some jewelry or something, take that off, put it in your pocket before you make your tayammum. Also, another condition to make it successful is using the entire palm of the hand when you are performing it. So not just like, oh no, I don't want to touch the ground, I don't want to touch like the sand, I don't want to touch the rock or something, so I'm just gonna use a finger and be like, iffy about it. No, you gotta use your entire palm of your hand to be able to wipe over both arms, both hands, and including the elbow and face as well. Number 6, tayammum happens, the way it happens is that you actually have to use both of your elbows, both of your hands, and kind of put them both down on the element or the substance that you are using to wash with. So kind of like touch it like this, like twice. You touch it twice, and then if there is excess like dust or excess like dirt or sand on the palms of your hands, shake your hands a little bit, so that it falls and it's not like attached to you, because the point is not to smear yourself with dust or the point is to just do something that Allah has allowed us as a substitute for making our wudu. And once you do that, you go over the top of your right hands all the way up to the elbow, and then you go through the bottom all the way, and then you start with your left hand. You go over your left hand from the top part and then the bottom part as well, and then you beat the ground or the rock or the sand again, and then you shake your hands so there is nothing left in the palms of your hands, and then you wipe over your face. Once you have done that, then you are inshallah ready to make your salah, and your tayammum is done. So again, you go twice. First time, and then you make sure to get rid of any excess dust or sand from your hand, and you wipe over your right hand all the way up to the elbow on the top, and then the kind of the bottom or the down side of them, and then you do the left side as well, and then inshallah you will be done. Okay, so all of this allows you to be able to pray without actually making any wudu or using any water at all. There are some sunnah acts, like we said, there are sunnah acts for wudu. There is also sunnah acts for tayammum. For instance, saying Bismillah is a sunnah. Doing it in that order, right hand, left hand, and then face, is also a sunnah. Muwala, meaning not leaving a gap between wiping over or doing these acts. So not like do your right hand and then have a conversation and then go and do the left hand and then have another conversation and then do your face. No, you gotta do it like in sequence and in a consecutive way, without really leaving a period of time that's long enough for a conversation or something. And also another sunnah is to start with the right side, like I just explained to you, and then the left side, and then the top part, and then the bottom part of the hands. وتفريج الأصابع mean that another sunnah act of tayammum is you actually put your hands, like your fingers, you interlock your fingers in the manner I explained with wudu, so that it reaches between your fingers as well. Also, finally, one of the sunnah acts is that you can face the qibla. One of the sunnah acts is that you can face the qibla while you are doing that. Of course, all of that is great, but you should always try to keep some extra water with you in the car, or in the vehicle or something, in case you had to make wudu and there was no water. But just so that you are excused to make tayammum in a case like the times we're living in now, and you have credible fear that you might not be able to use water in the bathroom, or if that you use it, then you might be causing the spread of the virus among people. Then you are allowed to actually make this act of tayammum. Does tayammum make sense to you so far? Do you guys have an idea, a visual understanding of what tayammum looks like? While you guys type your answers and let me know if these things make answer, I just wanted to say that if someone say like they do not have access to water and they want to pray, it might be preferred, if they hope to find the water later, to actually wait and delay your salah a little bit. That it might be actually a good idea. Okay, it might be a good idea. That's different from what we said. If you want to come and pray jama'ah and you have made your wudu and you come all the way to the masjid and you can't use the bathroom and you don't have water, and you really want to pray jama'ah, in that case, we're not going to say, hey, go all the way back to your house, make wudu and come back, because if you do, then you are going to miss salat al-jama'ah, and in that case, inshallah your tayammum would be valid. But again, I repeat myself one more time, it's best to actually travel around with some water so that you're able to make wudu when needed in the case. So is it just hands and face? Yes, it's just hands and face. Good question, Musa. Yes, it's just hands and face. You don't need to do your feet, you don't need to do your head, you don't need to do your ears, just hands and face. And by the way, once you do that, you're actually able to make any salah, any number of salah. Salat al-Dhuhr and al-Asr and any salah, as long as you have not broken you have not committed an act that would otherwise break your fast. And by the way, similarly, for people who may be, excuse me, for people who may be sick or like have injuries or like are unable for some reason to use the water, they have a certain illness or sickness that prevents them, or they are laying in a hospital bed and they can't move and they can't really like have water being used. In that case, they are actually allowed to make their tayammum. Inshallah, I'm gonna actually right now perhaps add my camera and start my video and maybe show you really quickly. I know it won't be as good as in person, but it will be much better than actually not at all having a not at all having like being able to see the like what does tayammum look like. All right, so Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So hopefully you should be able to see me in a second. And once my video is on, inshallah, I'm going to demonstrate to you the act of tayammum. All right, I think my video is on. So here's how you perform tayammum. I'm gonna use this book right here as like a demonstration for like a rock or the ground outside the masjid or like concrete or something. And I'm gonna use this as demonstration. So I'm gonna get my hands like this. I'm gonna take 1, 2 times, and then just to make sure there is no like dust or sand left on my hands, I'm just gonna go like this, and that will allow it to like if you have any excess thing on your palms to like drop or fall, and then I go with my left palm, go over the top of my right hand like this, the top part, just one time, and then I go over the bottom part like this, and then I will go over the right side, or sorry, the left hand up to my elbow, and then go down like this, and now I'm done with the hands. Then I will go 1, 2, shake my hands like this and make sure there's no sand, and then I'm gonna go start from the top of my face and go down all the way down and make sure that I cover my face nicely. That's it, and you are done. You have your wudu or your tayammum, and you are ready to pray any prayers with that. So I hope that makes sense, everyone. Nice, Mike. Okay, yeah. So I hope that makes sense. And with that, alhamdulillah, we are done with this part that has to do with tahara or wudu, at least for you guys. There are 2 more things that we might have to separate gender in order for us to speak about it, and it might not be like something that there is interest. We'll talk about it among the parents, inshallah, and we'll decide. But then we can start with salah from next time, or we can start with aqidah, which means the principles of Islamic faith, and we can go from there. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, it seems like the mic is really popular. All right, I hope that you were able to understand tayammum, though. I know the mic is cool, but the point was that you guys get the tayammum part. But I do agree, the mic is really good. I'm grateful that I have this smart mic. I'm able to, the computer mic doesn't pick up as good. So, alhamdulillah. So, everyone feels good. Everyone feels good about their knowledge of tahara. Send me your questions, please. You can take my okay. You can take my phone number from your parents, and text me your questions if you have, or if they can ask on your behalf on the WhatsApp group. I can answer it there, inshallah, if I know the answer. The whole point of this class, guys, was to get you to understand some really necessary uh, parts of our faith that frequently done. You know, I didn't like you did not get to learn like big things, but sometimes the big things only happens once in a life. For instance, the rules of Hajj or pilgrimage only happens once in a lifetime, and you really don't need to know the rules unless you're going on Hajj. But wudu, everyone has to make wudu. You know, from the time you are a little kid and you start learning, and then once you hit puberty, salah becomes a fard ayn. It becomes the most important obligation on you, the most important thing in your life, and you can't perform salah without knowing the rules of tahara. So I really appreciate your patience. I appreciate the fact that you made it through all of these sessions, even though I know firsthand they can be really difficult with the details. Even adults can get bored, and they can sense, like, that it's hard to digest. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for making it through the class, and send me your questions. Halal nail polish, they say to rub each nail for 10 times. So, no, 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 no. No, what step of wudu should we do this? Okay, when you say they say, are you saying the manufacturing people, or are you saying like people? Because that would make a difference. If the manufacturing people are saying, in order for water to go through the nail polish, you have to wash 3 or 10 times, then do what the manufacturer people are doing. And the process would happen when you are washing your hands. When you are washing your hands. So if you're washing your hands for wudu, the water's coming down, you're washing your hands, then you do that 10 times if the manufacturers are saying that. However, if like people on the interweb, on the internet are saying that, I'm not really sure if if they know what they're saying or they are making that up. But no, you don't have to wash 10 times. You don't have to wash 10 times. It has to be okay. Okay, it's the manufacturer. Then you gotta do 10 times at the time when you are washing your hands. At the time when you're washing your hands, and if you are using it on your toes, then at the time you're washing your feet, your feet as well. Good question. I didn't really know that that nail polish would take 10 times. Wow, that's. I mean, it's still impressive that water can go through it, but 10 times I didn't really know that. But alhamdulillah, better than nothing. You guys have any other questions that I can answer before I go offline? All right, I think we're good. Thank you, everyone. Jazakumullah khair. Enjoy your fast. Don't forget, these are the last 10 nights of Ramadan. My request and my humble request, if you have learned just one thing from this class, just one thing, if you have learned from that class, I really ask you to make dua and prayer for me and my family and my daughters, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us, and that Allah protect us, that Allah increase us in faith, and especially for my daughters, that they grow and be knowledgeable of their faith, and to be from amongst the righteous. Please, that's my one request. If you've learned just one thing, if you haven't learned anything, that's fine, don't make the dua. But if you have learned, please make dua for me and my family, and especially my kids and my parents. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. I'll see you next time, inshallah.